Bienvenidos and welcome to Stories de la Frontera, Student Edition. I'm Justin Watson.
And I'm Maria Elena Castellanos. Thank you for joining us.
For some, Tijuana and San Diego are two separate cities, but for others, it's one gateway connecting one dynamic region. Today, we'll go behind the scenes into the lives of the people who are the pulse of this thriving border.
From personal tragedies to individual triumphs, we will explore some of the complexities that define the millions who live on both sides.
We begin with the dilemma of one Southern California family. Under the Obama administration, more than 400,000 people have been deported from the United States. That's more deportations under one president than any other.
This often leads to the separation of families when parents are suddenly torn apart from their children or spouses. James Smith tells us the story of one family who found themselves caught in the middle.
These are just some of the faces, men, women, and children, who've been deported from the United States by federal agents, often tearing families apart. Most of them are from Mexico and Central America. According to Mexico's National Migration Institute, about 40% of those deported were sent back through the San Ysidro port of entry. One of those is 47-year-old Francisco Villagomez. He was brought to the U.S. as a teenager, spending most of his life in San Bernardino, California. Eventually, he married, raising 5 children.
And from then on, we just became members of the church, and we were really productive citizens. I graduated college with the help of my husband. He also had a good job.
Like thousands of other undocumented people, Francisco was working and living illegally in the shadows.
2010, that's when everything changed for us. They denied my access to the States back on that day, and it was the beginning of a whole new story.
And he was immediately deported to Mexico.
We were staying in a hotel that had like blood on the bathroom walls and then on the bedding, and I was like, oh my God, is he gonna be safe?
For 3 years, Gina Villagomez went back and forth, driving 2 hours every weekend to stay with her husband, but the trips eventually began to take their toll.
You know, I was used to, I was living comfortable, we had our house, I had my income, and I did not see myself ever leaving that lifestyle to come and join him here. Marriage is a vow you take, and you say, for better or for worse. At this time, I was facing at my worst situation.
Part of the sudden transition meant taking their younger children, who were not fluent Spanish speakers, and enrolling them in Mexican schools.
There's only 2 ways to see things in life, positive, negative. And for me, my faith in God was a plus. So that's why we're still here today. She took the step of faith also to leave everything back in the States and moving back over here with the rest of us.
Using his skills as a carpenter, Francisco made furniture, selling it at local markets, earning about 1/3 less for each piece than their worth in the U.S.
God always meets our needs. It hasn't been easy financially. A lot of times there's always resources. Despite the challenges, Gina and Francisco have become very active in their church in Tijuana.
We just chose to stay with the positive and actually just put feet to our faith and just trust, just be real. And that's the reason why I believe that we're here today, and we're just going to continue to see what was at the end of the tunnel, and I know there's good things.
Gina is now working back on the American side of the border in Alpine, which means commuting again every day.
As for Francisco, he plans to reapply for a green card, which could take up to 10 years before he is eligible again.
From human welfare to concern for animals, care often depends on the well-being of the caretaker. The poorer the community, the less likely an animal will be to get special treatment. But now, one organization in Tijuana is changing that perception.
These are just some of the stray dogs wandering the streets of Tijuana. They are starving and oftentimes without shelter.
We work with a net of rescuers. We help the rescuers. So if it's a rescuer who will call us and say, I rescue a dog, is in bad condition, we send him with a vet, and we provide the vet care and food and all the stuff.
Stray dogs can cause many problems, including the spread of disease and bites on humans. Humane Society de Tijuana holds pet adoption events on the U.S. side of the border. Nicole Riley explains.
We do, on average, a huge spay neuter clinic for the public once a month, but but we do have great relationships with our veterinarians down there. We provide these veterinarians with all of the medical supplies so that they don't charge the people for the services.
Many of the HSTJ volunteers often work in mobile or static clinics.
We have phone calls and sometimes in our page they send some photos, and that's how we rescue dogs in so bad conditions like Nina.
Pet adoption is very simple. A quick home visit and you could have yourself a new family member.
We don't like people who are looking for a pet. We're looking for people who look a part of a family. If we approve the home and approve the application, you could adopt the dog. But you also could foster that dog for a week before you decide if you're going to adopt it, because we are looking for forever homes.
For information on pet adoption events, visit friendsofhstj.org.
Our next story shows how the boundary between Mexico and the U.S. was first formed.
Giovanni Fuel takes us to the Mojoneras, the famous historical landmarks that show just how the 2,000-mile borderline was originally identified.
This is the view of Tijuana, high above the San Isidro Hills. The view from the sky, high above the Tijuana River Valley, is enough to leave one mesmerized. Across the Tijuana River Valley is the Tijuana skyline, northern Mexico's third largest city. The Tijuana River flows west and into the Pacific Ocean. That is where La Mojonera, number 258, or landmark, sits. It's the official marker indicating the legal boundary between Mexico and the United States. The famous marker has a long history. It begins with the Mexican-American War back on April 25, 1846. It stems from a dispute over Mexico's border with the annexation of the Republic of Texas. Mexico acknowledged the Nueces River as the new border, while the U.S. insisting the border start at the Rio Grande. General Zachary Taylor and his soldiers crossed the Nueces River. Mexico saw this as an insidious invasion. War ensued and lasted for 2 years. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo ended the war in 1848 and was signed in Mexico City. In 1889, both countries formed a joint committee representing Mexico and the U.S. To this day, the International Boundary and Water Commission is still intact.
Cuando se creó el imaginario de que debían expandirse hasta el Océano Pacífico, los estadounidenses lo debían hacer a costa de México o a costa del Canadá. O sea, lo iban a hacer como sea, a costa de un país o del otro. Fue más fácil hacerlo a costa de México por la volatilidad política de nuestro país, de México, durante el siglo XIX.
For those of us born here in Southern California, we've seen the border hundreds of times. But many people don't realize where the border sits today is not where it originally was.
Pero no se tenía previsto que nada marcara la frontera entre México y los Estados Unidos, porque acuérdate que históricamente han existido dos Tijuanas.
And then after the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, they set the boundary line to go from this point out here, which is one Marine League south of the San Diego Bay.
Que la frontera entre las dos Californias primero pues es un pedazo de tierra, una zona de transición entre esa misión, San Miguel Arcángel de la Frontera, el Descanso y pues la misión de San Diego.
The Tijuana-San Isidro border crossing is the busiest border in the world, from crossing and mitigating a river by horse and carriage to the present 17 million cars annually. Things certainly have changed.
For more information on how the borderline was formed, visit the website for El Museo de la Historia Tijuana.
Friendship is often left out of political discussions between the U.S. and Mexico.
But one Tijuana activist is helping change the discussions through his work along the border fence. His meetings often take place at the southern tip of the border fence. Orlando Bustos has the story.
Dozens of volunteers gathered early on a Saturday morning at Friendship Park, which is located at the southernmost point of the fence along the U.S.-Mexico border. They are prepping the ground to plant a butterfly garden in support of a bigger event called Salvemos la Playa, which means Save the Beach. Daniel Watman is the event organizer.
Este evento hoy, como cuando sembramos el jardín hace 7 años, hoy es el 7º aniversario, forma parte de un evento mucho más grande que se llama Salvemos la Playa.
Volunteers like Saul Borbon give up their own time to clean up the beach, mainly in Tijuana.
Más que nada, venir a este evento empezó por Salvemos la Playa, que fue hace 4 años. Entonces me involucré por una fundación, se llama FIC, está en el lado de Otay. Entonces nos invitaron, hicieron una invitación, aceptamos a venir. Entonces como fueron pasando las horas, nos fue gustando. Nos invitaron a lo que es el Parque Binacional.
To promote cross-border friendships, Watman founded Border Encuentros.
Me encanta la idea de que la gente se conozca a través de barreras culturales. El jardín se sembró en 2007 y sí, con el mismo propósito de fomentar esa amistad a través del muro.
And after negotiating with the Homeland Security, his group provided a place for separated families and friends to communicate face-to-face through the steel fence that divides the U.S. and Mexico.
Esto de poner divisiones para protegernos hace completamente el contrario.
Dan Watman's group lists monthly events on Facebook. Almost all of them take place at Friendship Park.
Just 15 miles north of Friendship Park sits a small restaurant nestled near the downtown trolley tracks. Its original owner has beat the odds, still serving up unique and original Mexican food for longtime San Diego residents. Calvin Sutton has the story.
This is the 12th and Broadway Cafe. It's a family-owned business that's been thriving in downtown San Diego since 1957. When Theresa and Jose Gonzalez first opened the doors here, the landscape was entirely different. There were few restaurants, no stores, and there was no fancy red trolley passing by.
Those days, in the 50s, if you need to buy groceries, you came to 12th and Broadway.
The Gonzalezes immigrated from Jalisco, Mexico, bringing with them traditional recipes for Mexican food. That was a hit with their new customers in San Diego.
Everything, Mexican food and American food.
As the restaurant's customers base grew, the Gonzalez needed to add more staff. So they turned to their family members, their own children, cousins, and nephews.
I started over there when I was about 12 years old. You know, I used to wash dishes, wait on tables.
Many of the cafe's customers are originals who've been coming here for decades. At 90 years young, Doña Teresa still drops by the cafe every day. She is proud of what her family has accomplished and is content knowing that her children and grandchildren will carry on the empire she and her husband created so long ago.
The restaurant at 12th and B is located on the corner. It's open 7 days a week, closing just after lunchtime. And yes, Doña Teresa still makes occasional appearances to greet her customers.
And anyone who has tasted Tijuana-style street food knows it has garnered international acclaim. But now the popular delicacy is available on this side of the border.
Marcia Villavicencio introduces us to the owner of a unique food truck in San Diego, where the flavors and ambiance of Mexico's food and culture is very much alive.
This is the owner of Tacos Tumbras, Tony Sosa, a fun-loving character who loves bringing his TJ-style tacos to San Diego. Tony started as a cook in a taqueria in Mexico, and this sparked his passion for making people happy through his food, especially his tacos al pastor.
Que es la especialidad exactamente el que hacemos el adobo. Lo reposamos 15 días, lo marinamos, lo licuamos y dejamos la carne que se reposa de un día para otro y hacemos el trompo y los taquitos de pastor pues son los casi los mejores.
People come to Tacos Tumbras not just because of the food, but also because of the family-like atmosphere this truck has.
La intención es que ellos se sientan como si estuvieran en su casa en la yarda comiendo, lo más cómodo y confiable, que se sientan lo más confiados. ¿Sí entiendes? Que se sientan como que ya los conocemos desde hace tiempo.
Everything is made fresh in this kitchen, and it shows in his food, from the vegetables he serves, all the way up to a cow's head.
Todo bien fresco. Esa vaca anoche comió el último zacate que tenía que comer y ahora en la mañana la mataron, de lo fresca que está.
And the flavors and freshness of his food is appreciated and favored by many of his customers.
Vengan a comer aquí, está sabroso.
But not everything was easy for the owner of Tacos Tumbras. When his business first started, he was hurt economically by the restrictions that the city had put on food trucks. He lost not only customers, but previous spots where he used to sell his tacos, as he had to relocate multiple times, not being able to stay in one place for more than 2 hours.
Eso me afectó porque perdí mucho, porque pagué renta, depósito, invertí en eso, entonces me tuvieron que mover. Entonces me fui y perdí, otra vez tuve que recuperar, incluso hice un préstamo y todo eso. Pero ahorita ya gracias a Dios parece ser que vamos a recuperarnos.
Thanks to the Food Truck Association that he and other food truck owners belong to, Tony was able to fight the city and win a proposal that allows him to park his truck for 10 hours at one spot. But the win came with a fee.
Un permiso extra tenemos que pagar de $950 al año. Pero yo pienso que eso era, por eso es que ganamos la propuesta de que nos dejaran, porque a lo mejor nomás querían permiso extra.
But winning this proposal was only a small victory for Tony. His hard work and dedication are paying off, as he recently became the full owner of his taco truck. And he continues to strive by bringing happiness and charisma to San Diego through his traditional Mexican tacos.
If this story has whet your appetite, visit Tacos Tumbras at the corner of El Cajon Boulevard and 35th Street in City Heights. They are open from 11 in the morning to 10 every night.
And what do sports and water canals have in common? Nothing really, unless you've been to Colonia Presidentes in Tijuana. Residents there inspired a community to get into action to help turn their neighborhood around. Welcome to Colonia Presidentes, a neighborhood on the east side of Tijuana. Known for high delinquency rates, the neighborhood is fighting to end drugs, poverty, and blight. Maria Virchis, who lives by humble means, has been fighting to make things better for herself and the people who live here.
Mira, yo estoy aquí porque a mí me gusta que mi colonia se vea mejor.
Evangelina is another resident. She's been fighting hard to get resources that would help in their efforts.
Nosotros pues hemos andado buscándole por aquí y por allá.
The women's persistence has paid off. A few years ago, the local government turned one of the canals into a multi-purpose sports field and a skateboard park. And their work has inspired some of the maquiladoras to get involved. Victor, a resident and employee with Tobutsu, one of the local maquiladoras, remembers how the colonia got its sports turf.
Anteriormente era puro cemento.
And he's not the only one. Nacho has a degree in business administration and owns a birria stand in the neighborhood.
Entonces, en los cuales se le ha metido pintura, puerta, en una cancha de allá arriba se le ha puesto hasta alfombra.
Still, to keep the canals clean is a constant battle.
En sí, los canales nada más para eso sirven, para basura.
They vow to keep the pressure on the Mexican government in hopes that one day everyone here can be proud of the place they call home. Residents continue to be involved and are planning future cleanups and soccer and basketball events this summer.
Well, back on this side of the border, residents are inspired by something else.
We are talking about the sounds of salsa music. We had a chance to meet several people who dedicate their lives to keeping salsa culture thriving. From North Park to downtown, all the way up to La Jolla, passion for salsa music and dance is alive and pumping in San Diego.
Para los rumberos, Niña y Señora, back to back.
This is the voice of Chris Springer, host of the top-rated Latin Grooves radio show on San Diego's Jazz 88.3 FM. Now in his 14th year with KSDS, Springer is an on-air authority on all things salsa.
The immigrants that migrated from Cuba and Puerto Rico and all these and throughout the Caribe, they came here and then they brought this music with the art form of jazz. And so when mambo hit in the 50s, it went crazy in America, and that was the music that I fell in love with.
And just like Chris Springer, there are others whose lives are surrounded by their love for salsa music.
I'm from Puerto Rico, I'm an islander, so we dance a lot of salsa.
For 12 years now, Queen Bee's Art and Cultural Center in North Park has been promoting salsa music and dance. It was started on accident by owner Alma Rodriguez.
One day, a girl walked in and said, "Oh, you offer salsa classes?" And I said, "No, I don't, but I can."
Founded in 2002, Majesty in Motion is one of San Diego's premier dance companies.
Come to our workshops, you're going to see someone who's as young as 10, 11, all the way till 70, all ages, all sizes. Anybody can do this dance for sure. If you have the dedication and desire, you can do it.
My best friend, he met his wife salsa dancing. I met my wife salsa dancing. And there's so many people that are getting married this year that met from coming to our classes. So it's nice to see people's, their life change.
El Día de San Juan is a San Diego event filled with live salsa music, but events like this are becoming harder to find. Tommy Rosas points this out.
It's hard. Things to do here as far as Latin music in general, not just salsa, but Latin music in general. is a little difficult to do here in San Diego.
Chris Springer recognizes these changes and worries about the future of salsa music.
You know, the older generation guys are passing away, unfortunately, and there's not new young bloods coming in. There's very few new groups that are like hot. I mean, there is a few, but it's just not like it was before.
If salsa music and dance is to survive in San Diego, it's going to be up to the next generation to keep it alive.
If you are interested in learning more about taking salsa lessons or just where you can go to hear salsa music in San Diego, visit salsasandiego.net.
Music, food, and culture have always drawn Americans to Mexico, but now more and more Americans are interested in living there. Because of economics, the increased cost of residing in California and trying to plan for retirement is causing baby boomers to think about alternative ways to stretch their dollars. Kitty Harris introduces us to one American woman who is living south of the border. This, despite the dangers that others fear.
There's no place like home.
When I get to the part of 5 where you see the hills of Tijuana, and it's like, ah.
San Diego City College professor Susie Fontana is living her dream.
I teach Child Development 101 as well as a number of other classes, and I live across the border in Rosarito Beach.
Despite the concerns of family and friends, Susie is embracing her new way of life. This is Susie's 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condominium with oceanfront views. The property sits inside a gated community. The cost? Less than 1,000 American dollars a month. Not bad considering the type of property in San Diego along Del Mar, La Jolla, or Encinitas costs an estimated $5,000 to $8,000, not including amenities. This is Bart Allenberry, one of Susie's neighbors.
We're in this very unique cross-border zone where I can be an American and I can live on the beach for a ridiculous low amount of money and have the same accommodations and private, access and a beautiful natural ocean in my backyard for what it costs to probably rent a one-bedroom place.
According to the 2012 U.S. Census Bureau report, Susie and Bart are not alone. An estimated 734,000 Americans are now living in Mexico. This despite reports of violent crimes and warnings from the U.S. State Department.
I feel safe or safer here than I do in the United States. I don't worry about going for walks at night with the dogs, walking to restaurants for dinner.
As far as the lifestyle goes, it's excellent here. I've been down here for a long time. We have a corporate training center down here, believe it or not, working with the Maquiladoras, which is the big powerhouse of North American manufacturing here along the border.
Retirees like Susie and Bart are creating their own American dream with adventure, style, and at an affordable price.
Maybe you're a baby boomer, maybe you're somebody who just appreciates beautiful things and a beautiful lifestyle. This is the place.
There's restaurants I've gone to or stores I've gone to in San Diego a lot of times, and I don't get that same, even if I know some of the people that work there, I don't get that same sense of, that bear hug and how are you? That real caring that I get here.
For more information on housing options, contact Larry Frentz at oceanbaja.com.
And finally, imagine a chance to work for ESPN without any professional broadcast experience covering this year's World Cup in Brazil. How far would you go to make this dream real?
Well, for the highly coveted spot, one San Diego City College student rose to the challenge. Dallas Richter has her story.
Astrid, Astrid, Astrid. An outpour of support at San Diego City College.
Astrid, I just want to say to you that I'm so proud of you.
I'm so proud of you.
I'm so proud of you.
Students and faculty anxiously awaiting to hear the results of the ESPN Deportes Dream Job competition. Last November, City College student Astrid Mendez Medina entered the national contest on a whim.
My professor, Laura Castañeda, told me about it, and the first thing that I told her is that I wasn't an ESPN expert, so she told me that I should just go for the experience.
A once-in-a-lifetime experience to report from the 2014 World Cup in Brazil.
El fútbol nos ha dado grandes jugadores que sencillamente se han vuelto inolvidables.
The contestants were asked to blindly submit 2 videos a week for 6 weeks, not knowing where they stood in the competition. A month after she entered, Astrid got very good news in a very public way.
On Redes, which was the show for ESPN Deportes, that's when they announced to the whole country that I was a finalist.
After that, it was up to the viewers to decide who to keep and who to send home.
From January 6th till April 15, people had to vote every single day, every 24 hours, with every device they had.
And month after month, Astrid stayed alive in the competition.
We started at 8. By the end of January, we were 6. By the end of February, we were 4.
After making the Final Four, the contestants were scattered across the country to different ESPN studios.
I got to go to Miami.
Hola, ¿cómo están? Les hablo desde las instalaciones de ESPN en Miami.
They were phenomenal. They treat me so nice. Everybody's so professional. They definitely got into this contest. Like they definitely promoted me, and I got so many advice and so much support from them.
Y vean nada más lo que tengo detrás de mí. El escritorio donde Jorge Ramos, Hernán Pereira, José del Valle y todo el talento de Jorge Ramos y su banda les llevan la información deportiva que tanto les gusta. Pero vamos a tener que bajar la voz porque ya están hablando, ya empezó el programa y obviamente hay que escuchar a la voz de la experiencia.
Millonarios de Bogotá anoche le ganó a Junior en Barranquilla.
And by the time she was in the final two, she was appearing daily on talk shows and radio programs. Through the whirlwind, she kept her feet on the ground.
It's just something that comes with the job, and actually what I think that it's better just to know that people actually are looking at your work.
After her work in the competition was seen and the votes were tallied, Astrid's supporters were broadcast live on the Redis Results Show.
El ganador de El Dream Job es Diego Arrioja.
Unfortunately, I was the runner-up, but definitely I learned a lot, and I gained so much experience.
Experience that will one day land Astrid the dream job she worked so hard for.
Thank you guys so much for all your help during this contest. So,
muy bien.
San Diego and Tijuana.
Reportó para ESPN, Astrid Mendez.
Congratulations to Astrid. We wish her well in her future journalism endeavors.
And we hope Stories de la Frontera Student Edition has encouraged you to visit and learn more about our border region.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Maria Elena Castellanos.
And I'm Justin Watson. Have a good night.